Hi, can I start you out with something to drink? Can I start you out with something to drink? Can I start you out with something to drink? How many of you guys have worked in a restaurant or know somebody that might be deaf? Okay. I personally have taken 3 years of ASL in high school, and Noah, this is Noah Wheeler, I want to introduce him. He is one of my friends that I sign to all the time in the dorm, and he's taken it for 4 years in high school as well. I just wanted to give a quote from the Gallaudet University, which is the deaf university in Washington, D.C. They provided a study that showed 37 to 140 people out of every 1,000 in the United States experienced some sort of hearing loss. I think that being a liberal arts school, Manchester University should require a 1-year course of American Sign Language in case one of these experiences happen to come up. Some of the 3 major reasons that I think Manchester should offer an American Sign Language course is because we have fellow Americans that cannot speak. They can't hear you, therefore they don't know what they are saying, so they can't talk to you how you would normally talk to someone. There are three major regions. They have limited communication. They have to, sometimes if an emergency situation comes up, they're not going to know how to talk to the person to give them help, and they also feel left out. Limited communication, they're given, most people use pencil and a piece of paper. If you go to a restaurant, you'll see if there's a deaf couple, they'll pull out a pencil and a piece of paper just to order their food. I mean, like you saw in the skit that I did with Noah, I would personally rather be able to communicate with him directly than to have to go back into the back room to find somebody who could communicate for me. I feel more personal, and I want to be that kind of waitress that could communicate with everybody. They also, some people use interpreters, and I mean, a lot of people, you can't go everywhere with an interpreter, so it's kind of hard to have somebody to communicate with you if you're not having a pencil and a piece of paper. Even if you just knew the alphabet is easy enough to communicate with a deaf person without knowing. You don't even have to know most of the signs. Most deaf people can communicate with you without knowing that you know sign language, but even if you know the alphabet, they can sign to you and the alphabet, and you can interpret what they're saying. Personal experience for me, I had a phone call from my roommate over the summer, and she works at a candle factory, and she had a deaf couple come in and buy candles. And she called me and she said, I really wish you were here right now. I don't know how to communicate with this guy. He's wanting to pull out a piece of paper and a pencil and try to tell me what he wants, and there's so many people in here, and I'm really stressed out. And ever since she told me that, she came up to school this year and she's like, I need you to teach me the basics. I need to know how to do this in case this guy comes back in. He lives right in Centerville. I need to know how to do all this. And then another personal experience is I went to South Carolina over the summer for vacation, and we always take one day to go fishing out on the pier. And there was a deaf couple that walked onto the pier, and my brother pointed them out because he saw them signing to each other. And when they walked past to go away from the pier, I signed to them and I said, hi, how are you? And their face just glue. I mean, if you see a deaf person and you can communicate with them, they aren't going to care if you just go up and talk to a random stranger. It's not like they appreciate the fact that some people can communicate with them, and if they take the option to communicate with them, they will just stand there and talk to you. I think I talked to them for over 2 hours just standing there on the pier. Another quote from a deaf student from Deaf Education in 2012 says, the stresses and challenges of raising a child with hearing loss is mostly associated with the diagnosis of the hearing loss, learning new communication methods, making appropriate educational decisions, as well as increasing visits to various professionals. My second point about emergency situations, I feel that EMTs should be required to know the basics of ASL. If they know 1 year, they can communicate and ask basic questions. How are you feeling? What happened? Where were you? When did it happen? How did it happen? And a personal experience that I also had with an emergency situation is I work at a veterinary hospital in my hometown over the summer, and I had a deaf man bring in his dog that had just been hit by a car. And he was so frantic that he had no idea how to communicate with anybody, and the veterinarian knew that I knew sign language. So he like drugged me out there real quick because he was just all over the place trying to sign. He drugged me out there and had me interpret for him, and in less than 10 minutes I could tell him exactly what happened, where it happened, when it happened, and I could like interpret back for the veterinarian back to the customer, and he just felt more relaxed the fact that he could talk to me. A study by Engelman, Ivy, Sung, DeRouge, Brune, and Neuhauser in 2013 stated, members of the deaf community do not see themselves as disabled, but rather as members of a linguistic minority group centered on the use of sign language, which must be taken into account when designing training programs for both emergency responders and to enhance preparedness efforts by community-based organizations serving the deaf community. My third point is that they feel left out. They feel ashamed that they can't communicate with everyone, and the fact that, I mean, you go to college, you don't, like, there is a specific school that you can go to for deaf people, but you don't, like, there was a student here last year, I had a personal experience with this one, his name was Matt, and he was on the football team, and I saw his interpreter at all of the VIA events, and I finally got the courage to go talk to her and find out who she was signing for, because, I mean, sign language is one of my like major passions. I have a lot of friends at home that are deaf. It's really nice to be able to just go up and talk to them, and everybody is amazed when they just stand there and watch you. Like, they'll stand there and watch you and want you to interpret while you're signing. And the student, Matt, he was being not necessarily bullied by the football team, but nobody could communicate with him except for one person on the football team. So I introduced myself to him, and he would always come up and talk to me. Every time he'd see me, he would just come running up like, oh my gosh, I can talk to you, I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to sign to you. So it was kind of nice feeling that I could be that person he could go to and talk to. And then another study in 2010 by the role of American Sign Language narratives in developing identity for deaf children states that there are key tools for developing the decontextualized thought required for literacy. If anyone would be interested in learning sign language, I can teach you the basics. I have a sign language book that my professor gave me in high school, and I'm also been in contact with Shannon Fawbush about starting a sign language club, because there are a lot of people that are interested in this. And then to get into a program or even want to, you just have to be willing to learn and respect the deaf community. Like, deaf community culture is really, it's more in depth than a normal culture would be. Like, Americans and the deaf people, like, they're the same person, but their culture is completely different. In conclusion, I think that Manchester should require a 1-year American Sign Language course due to the fact that they are a liberal arts school and we are required to take other classes that most of us would not want to take. But American Sign Language would allow you to be able to communicate with deaf people so they don't have limited communication, so that they can respond in emergency situations, and so they don't feel left out.